Hi there, I'm Christy. Welcome to my channel and to my homestead. I am from northern Alberta, Canada, where we live a hobby farm slash homesteader lifestyle. Today I wanted to share with you what I learned living this lifestyle right off the bat. What were some of the biggest money saving learning experiences that I use every day in my kitchen and on my homestead to help me stay really on track with what I'm growing, preserving, cooking, how I'm saving money. The way that I found saves us the maximum amount of money when it comes to food in our home. So one of the things that I found saves us a pile of money that anybody can do this, and you've seen me do it on my cooking videos here when I've done pantry challenge. I actually have one, I'll link it below, but it's how I make lunches. So a lot of you that are watching, I do know that your kids have grown and whatnot. Or many of you do homeschool your kids. In our situation, we have one son that is in school. So now that he is in school, the restrictions have lifted and he has access to a microwave. I like to preserve our leftovers as freezer meals in lunch containers that are freezer friendly or freezer safe. And I'll link the ones that I use particularly below. There are so many different brands, but the ones that I like to use is I make like a TV dinner kind of thing out of the leftovers and I pop them in the freezer. So I portion them out. So a lot of the times if I cook a meal, there'll be leftovers for 2 lunch kits or 1 lunch kit. The night before we pull and thaw out what we need for the week or part of the week so it's not sitting in the fridge for too long. As an example, if I had meatballs and mashed potatoes, I could freeze them in the portions and then he could just grab that out for his lunch, put it in the fridge. The next morning he can add in one of the compartments some sliced carrots and some grapes or an apple, or a piece of cake, whatever he desires, he can add into his lunch kit. And I am not buying anything. I buy 0% of my grocery budget goes towards school or work lunches. 0% of my grocery budget goes to making lunches. So, and even when we are home, we usually just have a breakfast, we skip lunch and then have dinner. If we're working, because if we're all at home and we're outside, we're usually working really, really hard. And so for that portion of it, we actually just usually eat eggs and some potatoes because I have lots of those on hand usually all the time because I have chickens and I have an abundance of garden potatoes that we need to use up. So that's usually what we do as a big breakfast, and then we just skip lunch and have dinner. So that's how we roll. We usually eliminate a meal. So one of the other things that I learned really early on living this lifestyle, you have to adapt the rule that convenience and efficiency are not the same thing. It's kind of a brain twister, because when you think about it, of course, convenience and efficiency are not the same thing. But in our society today, we've kind of been marketed to believe that is to be true. So we have to kind of detach our beliefs from fast and easy is efficient, making things quicker, making things easier, speeding up, giving you more time. It seems to have hijacked this belief that efficiency and convenience are the same thing. And actually, before I did this kind of lifestyle, I actually used to do marketing. I used to do a lot of designing and catalog design. In fact, that's where the name Cow Boss Christy comes from, is because my name of my company was Cow Boss Publications. And so, long story how I got that, but part of that was me learning how to market things. And one of the things to break it all down is people are marketed to you that convenience and efficiency are the same thing. marketing wants to convince a person of this to be true. And so basically it's like a detox, changing that belief system and kind of gaining that power back to recognize that convenience and efficiency are in fact separate, and that one has to participate to be efficient instead of taking the convenience route. You could spend $1 on a can of beans and then you have waste, or you could buy a bag of beans and that bag of beans could be 25 cents, cost you 25 cents for the same serving as the $1 can. So in our minds, we think that the dollar beans is better because we have to accommodate for our time. But the 3 minutes of time it might take to prepare those beans, of extra work a person may have to do, you still have to consider that there's the waste to recycle, and there's the environmental impact that one is taking, which in the long run, it contributes to a lot of other expenses and factors throughout a person's life. Like here, for an example, in Canada, we have a lot of taxes when it comes to certain things. So that costs us more money. Convenience of buying things bottled and canned or jarred, it has an expense. So buying that convenience is also expensive, and that is not efficient. So finding the mindset, adapting that mindset of how can I be more efficient? How can I save money on my convenience things? A person does definitely need to have those staples of convenience items. Like it's good to have a stock of beans or soups in the cupboard. You could buy a $12 chicken. You could make chicken soup for your family. That would last you 3 months instead of, for the same price, you could buy 12 cans and get a quarter of the volume. And so those are ways to kind of adapt, ways to be more efficient, and finding ways to embrace that. So, even though cooking the chicken and canning the chicken isn't convenient, it is very efficient, and then it does become convenient because you have shelf-stable food. That is a very big convenience to a person. So, it's just putting in more work is something that I learned saved me a ton of money. And actually, in the long run, once you kind of get into this cycle, it saves a lot of time because I don't have to go to the store as often. I don't have to spend all that time watching for sales. I can make multiple products, anything I want out of what I have or what I've created. So it allows one to open up to be more creative in the kitchen. And also conveniencing yourself. We often gravitate towards convenience because we don't have a skill set, or we don't know how to create or make these things. And so sometimes it can be overwhelming, right? Like overwhelming to think, well, how do I can this? How do I preserve this? How do I, and it's just like you see all these bulk items in your pantry and you're like, wow, that's a lot to think about. Wow, that's a lot to do. Wow, that's a lot of work. And even though it might take one day to go through all that work to kind of then have convenience later just from the work you're doing and by processing it, it's the skill set that's the scary part. It's the not knowing where to start. And so that's what leads me into one of my other tips, which we're going to get to in a second. So a lot of my friends, when I started to live this lifestyle, a lot of the friends that I had at the time were family members. They would say, you're kind of wasting your time when you can just drive to Costco or drive to Walmart and go get all these things. Well, one of the things that I learned is that when I would go to those box stores, I would buy way more than I needed to, and convenience foods and all these great prices. And there's so much temptation to buy things that we think is going to make our life better or easier or more convenient. And it's a really great way to get yourself sucked into that mindset of convenience and efficiency are the same thing, because they're really, really, really not. And, what I learned is that also, if I want to go to Costco, I'm driving 3.5 hours one direction. And then I have to go there, do my thing, and then drive 3.5 hours back the other direction, which can be overwhelming because you're gone for the whole day. You spend way too much money while you're gone. Always like, it's just always such a big deal, and it's expensive. For me to fuel up my truck, it cost me $165 Canadian to fill up my truck from empty, and we use card lock. So I don't know what it would be at the pumps. I'm not really wanting to spend that extra money on traveling and be gone for the day where I could be doing a bunch of other work at home, getting things, the animals taken care of, or working, literally making money, doing the things that I do at home. And then, it doesn't save me money. It isn't convenient, and it isn't efficient. Even if I wanted to go to the Walmart, which is an hour and 15-minute drive from where I live, one direction, it's always I usually go there. Come out of there disappointed because they usually don't have the things that I need, or it's just the quality is bad. So I just find that ordering bulk from places that I trust, that I know have good quality, and putting in a couple big orders a year on bulk items like beans and all these different things that need to be processed, or even like a couple cases of mushrooms. I bought 4 cases of mushrooms. I have a video on that as well, which I had processed all those mushrooms and how I did that. That will set us up for food, for over a year. That video, we saved over about $200 just by shopping in that way and me putting in the effort. So for me to save $200 for a year, over a year, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at every single food item independently, like if I look at the corn on my shelves or in my freezer, or I look at how I'm shopping and buying my coffee, or how I'm buying my rice, or how I'm buying my flour, if I start adding up, well, it cost me $200 for the year on this item. It cost me $200 for the year on this item. Pretty soon, by the end of the year, that's a lot of money that a person could save by just shopping in bulk and spending a day or two processing that. And that takes the convenience and efficiency, and it rewraps that in a new gift package. Because basically what I've found and what I've learned is that you have more convenience and more efficiency when you buy bulk, and when you spend the time to just get through it and process it in a way that is going to be useful in your kitchen, and in your daily rotation of or weekly or monthly rotation of whatever it is you're preparing for your family. We've learned to expand our palate, which is number 3 for me. Learn to expand your palate. We were always on autopilot. It was the same thing. I have the same recipes. I wasn't trying anything new. It was just get through the day, feed the family. You come in tired and you just make your thing, and that was it. And there was no expansion of what we liked. I got to a point where I looked at my husband the one day, and he's picking things off his plate, and I'm like, "You're really fussy." And he's like, "Well, I don't like these things." And it wasn't that he didn't like those things, he just didn't like how I was preparing them. Even Chaz, my son, he just did not want to eat certain things. He didn't like them because he was sick of them. They were sick of the same thing over and over and over, of the same staples over and over and over. So I learned that we needed to expand our palates. We needed to try different things, try different seasoning blends, try different combinations of food that we hadn't tried before, expand our palate. My stepson would not eat pumpkin products. He would not eat pumpkin pie. He would not eat pumpkin cake. He would not eat pumpkin rolls, not muffins, nothing. He hated pumpkin. He thought it was gross. He thought it was slimy and gooey and bleh. The cleaning out Halloween pumpkins and stuff like that at school, or classmates at school, it really freaked him out. So he didn't like that at all. I started to add them into recipes. Like, he would eat oatmeal, so I started adding in some pumpkin into oatmeal and making it, introducing him to the flavors of pumpkin pie, and he loved it. He especially loved it with maple syrup, and so that was something to start him onto a new palate. Now his favorite thing is pumpkin. I literally made a pumpkin square, like a pumpkin pie square made out of some pumpkins that I just cooked up out of the harvest from my fall harvest. And I was trying to use some of them up and invent some new recipes. And I had chopped up a bunch, like some squares of pumpkin, this pumpkin invention. I don't even know what to call it. It was really good. It tasted like a pumpkin pie with a slightly velvety texture, but it was like a cake and no icing, anything. I did put some fruit in it and stuff like that. And you wouldn't believe it, this morning I said, I suggested this morning, hey, there's some pumpkin cake or pumpkin squares there if you want to take one in your lunch. He took the whole bag. He snuck that whole bag and shoved it into his backpack as he was running down the stairs to catch the bus. And I'm like, I'm not even mad. I'm not even, he loves it so much. It is so jam-packed full of vitamins and nutrition and vegetables and fruit that whatever, if he wants to eat the whole thing, let him. I don't even care. But the fact that he wouldn't eat it at all before, and I know that's kids growing up and adapting to different palates and learning to like things, but my husband was the same way. He wouldn't eat things like that before, and now he does on a regular basis, and he asks for them. So it's like, okay, expanding the palate is a really important skill set to have to save a lot of money, because if you find something like a can of pumpkin, as an example, at the grocery store, and you find it on sale and you put it on your shelf, sometimes we just leave it there and think, well, we can only make pumpkin pie with it. But we can make soup. You can make, my latest thing right now is making pumpkin pasta, like pumpkin ravioli. That's really fun with the eggs that my chickens are laying. I have an abundance of eggs. I have some flour that I wanted to use up. That's so I can refill with the fresh flour I got and pull some out of the freezer. So, flour, eggs, and pumpkin to make these pumpkin stuffed raviolis sounds like a great idea to me. And something fun, something different. A person can spice that up and season it up, however, add some ricotta, whatever a person wants to do. The sky is the limit, and they will eat it. They enjoy it. They love this kind of stuff. So, expanding the palate is really, really important. So take that can of pumpkin off the shelf in your pantry and find a new way to use it. Challenge yourself. Find a new recipe. So that leads on to my fourth thing that I learned and that I follow here is try something new. So every week in my house, I make it a rule, it doesn't matter how busy I am, I make it a rule that I try something new. I try a new recipe. Now I'll cruise through everything online and I'll find something that looks interesting and I'll kind of save them links, and so I can go back and look at them later. Keep a record of things I want to try or things that I thought were interesting that I don't normally make. Or I will go and I'll look through some of the cookbooks that we have that were handed down from family members, even though some of them call for an atrocious amount of sugar and oils. I have substitutes. I use a lot of applesauce. So, if you have apples growing in your backyard, or you have a neighbor that has apples growing in your backyard, you can cook those down and use those in place of oil to cut down on the amount of oil that you're having to use in some of those old style recipes. And for the sugar, just cut it down. Just cut that sugar down and it'll be fine. It counts as a wet ingredient. And it'll be fine. Or you can swap it out for something different. I made a syrup out of corn cobs. I sometimes substitute that. Or a lot of times I will use coconut sugar because of the lower glycemic index, and I cut it in half. I just make those small adjustments. It usually always turns out. Baking is a science, but it's also an intuitive science, and you kind of just have to learn how to roll with it. Chaz gets really excited when it's try something new day, because it could be dinner, it could be a snack, it could be anything. It could be breakfast, or if you have a bunch of potatoes that are, spoiling or growing that you want to use up, shred them up and make a breakfast casserole with different flavorings and different seasonings and different vegetables, and try different things. Then you can freeze them in portions or freeze them and pull them out as you need them and use those as breakfast. So then there you are, eliminating another whole meal. So something that I like to do is on the try something new day, I make something that we can try it and enjoy it, but then also I freeze it in portions, and then those become breakfast if on days that Chaz doesn't have a smoothie for breakfast, or days that my husband is needing to take breakfast with him on the road. It's a convenience. I'm eliminating a second meal. So we've already eliminated having to buy food for making lunches. Now I'm eliminating buying food and making breakfast, because my try something new day, even if it's not breakfast food, it can double as such, right? If I make muffins or pancakes in a pan, or I could make a cobbler. Most of the times, if you start looking at your cereal boxes, cobbler's gonna have half of the amount of sugar in it than it would to buy your kid cereal off the shelf. And so you're eliminating a meal for the week. That's a big deal. That's a lot of savings right there, just by using that opportunity to create something that will help, contribute to savings. So things that I like to freeze muffins, I like to freeze casseroles. My try something new day, sometimes it'll be cakes, sometimes it'll be pies, and we'll do that as desserts. So then those weeks, then I usually don't have to make anything for breakfast, because there's usually already enough of a stockpile that, I don't have to. So say for an example, I want to try a new recipe and using up my eggs, and I want to make a new type of a burrito, or if I want to try making a breakfast sausage, I can make the breakfast sausage up, and then I can use it for dinner or lunch or breakfast, whatever meal I'm going to be trying it for. And then whatever is left over, I can make burritos and put them into the lunch kits, and we can do them as lunches, or we can put them into lunch kits and use them as breakfasts. So again, eliminating another meal by, basically it's essentially we're doing batch cooking every time we're cooking, but instead of having big portions, we're just saving the little portions, and those little portions add up big time. The number 4 rule, I also find like learning a new life skill. Learn how to preserve something. Learn how to do something and learn how to make something. Make beef stock. I learned how to make bone broth. I learned how to make V8 juice. I learned how to pressure can chicken. I learned how to make jam. I learned how to make peanut butter. Every week, I just kind of put that into an intention. I learned how to cook with homemade flour, right? I made in my freeze dryer. Those kind of things are skills that I would at least 2 to 4 times a month, I would set myself a goal to learn a new skill in the kitchen. And can I tell you, that sure saves a lot of money, because then when you do see these big bulk sales of things, you can take advantage of that, and you have the skill set slowly being built up to deal and handle that. Also, when a person kind of learns how to do these things, you can learn what you need to grow and what you need to harvest, which leads me to the next thing that I learned to save me money. Challenge yourself at least once a week to eat from your pantry, right? So a lot of you that are watching, you had participated or watched other people participate in the pantry challenge. What I like to do is I like to spend a week or 2 weeks just strictly out of the pantry. Nothing is store-bought, nothing. I don't use any products that I got from the store, just anything that I have preserved or on the shelves. That way I can always see what I need more of, what are my cooking habits, where I need to work on putting more stock in, if I need to up my game on growing certain products, if I need to decrease how much I'm growing or preserving or buying, right? So, I mean, you could buy 100 pounds of potatoes and it could be a good deal, but are you going to use them? Do you know how to use all of those potatoes? Do you know what to do? So they don't go bad. If I'm challenging myself for a week out of the month or 2 weeks out of the month to continuously be using or cooking strictly out of the pantry, this will really, really help me gauge what I need to grow. And it will also help me keep that stuff in a healthy rotation. I mean, potatoes don't keep in the cellar or in your stores forever. And so you can actually think you're doing good by growing or buying 100 pounds of potatoes when you only needed 25, right? For what you're actually using. So, what I do then is I evaluate. So I'm going to go look at my potato storage, and I'm going to see I have a bunch that need to be used up. So I can either make French fries and blanch them and freeze them for convenience food later so I don't waste my harvest. Or I can shred them or make them into cubes, or I could pressure can them and put them in I have other potatoes in here ready for making potato salad in a pinch, or mashed potatoes on a day where I forget to cook and whatever, or busy days. Those are my convenience foods. And those are things that are in my pantry that need to be used up, or they could be preserved to extend longer. You learn what sales you need to watch for more. So if you're using a lot more balsamic vinegar than you realized you did because your cooking habits have you reaching for that bottle more, then you watch for sales. You watch for sales for that kind of stuff. If you are constantly grabbing the jars of salsa and you run out of those really quickly, or barbecue sauce, then you might want to watch for those sales if you are not growing your own food. Or in my case, if I'm using more of those kind of items up than I thought I did, well, I kind of need to document that so I know for my grow season how much more I need to grow or how much less I need to grow. If I say, for example, I use a lot of barbecue sauce, but I don't use a lot of ketchup, I know I need to preserve less ketchup and preserve more barbecue sauce, and I need to grow the ingredients to support that. So those are really great ways to kind of challenge yourself so that you actually have a really good idea of where the holes are in your pantry all throughout the season, instead of just doing it once a year during a pantry challenge. And I find that that's how I have a really good stock pantry. I could go probably 3 months right now without having, if the grocery store closed tomorrow, I could go at least 3 months right now with what I have preserved and with what I'm able to reach for. I could make meals very convenient without feeling like I was stressed out. I'm very well prepared because I practice kind of checking myself and what I have on the shelves. What I did do is I was starting to actually freeze dry my leftovers, and I realized it wasn't efficient. It was a pain in the butt. I was filling my freeze dry trays and putting them in the freezer to pre-freeze, and then once they were full, I would freeze dry them. I won't do that again unless it's like meat, like turkey or chicken or beef or whatever. But I just didn't find that to be very, very convenient. My freeze dryer is free for processing ingredients like mushrooms or eggs or bananas, or yogurt, dairy, those kind of things. I'm able to put those on the pantry shelf and take advantage of those sales. So if I go to the store and I see yogurt is on sale for $2 a container, that's a really, really amazing price for us here, because yogurt is usually $5 or $6 a container. So I can buy several of those, get them in the freeze dryer and preserved, so that they are in Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber, and I'm good for, at least 10, 15 years with those. I don't have to worry about having, if I need it for a recipe, I just go and pull it off the shelf and make it. I know that's a luxury that I have a freeze dryer, and it is a luxury that many people do not have, but it is one of the tools that I use, and you know what, honestly, it's paid for itself already. So if you are considering getting a freeze dryer, I'm not affiliated. I wish I was. I'm not affiliated. I've tried to be, and because I'm in Canada, I don't think I can be, but I will tell you that having a freeze dryer is very, very life-changing, and it saves us a ton of money. Now, let me tell you, in where we live, it is very expensive to buy groceries where I live. If I was to travel to Edmonton, or even Grand Prairie, I could go to Costco and it would be much cheaper. But I do like to support our local grocery store here, Freeze Brothers. It supports Alberta farmers, which the farmers live in our province. And I like to shop that. I like to shop as local as I possibly can. Not to say that I don't like buying products that are imported. I do. I do love supporting my local economy. I hope that this kind of was of some value to you. I know what works for me might not work for everybody else, but these were really important things that really helped me. Once I kind of figured out what these were and how to it was like a leg up on really making a lot of savings. And so, if this helps you at all, I'm really, really glad. And I appreciate you so much for watching. Thanks for having a coffee with me. And I'm gonna go feed my animals and go collect the eggs. I think I can hear a chicken doing the cackleberry song. So anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thanks so much for being here. Bye for now.